Hello everyone and welcome to round 9 of the Nebula rFactor Championship. We're in Turkey going around Istanbul Park for 34 laps. The soft and medium compound tyres will be the tyres used for this race. It's Craig Baxter who's leading the championship though coming into this race, and Fred Bodden's going to have to try and get a win if he wants to get ahead in the championship. It's going to be a close race and it's hopefully going to be one of the best this season. I'll now hand you over to Justin for the pole position lap of the Turkish Grand Prix.
Welcome to Turkey for the pole position lap by Craig Baxter here at Istabul Park. As with most circuits, it's very important to get a nice smooth run through the final corners in order to give yourself the best opportunity for the start of the lap by carrying as much speed onto the straight as possible. It's a short run to turn 1 after crossing the line though, as Craig spots his braking point around the 100-meter board and then avoids the inside curb entirely. Turn 2 is flat out, so there's no need to sacrifice the exit of turn 1, which Craig demonstrated well. Let the car run out wide at the exit of 2 in order to carry as much speed into turn 3 as possible. Braking around the 100-meter board and dropping down to second gear, Craig hugs the inside line in order to open up the entrance for turn 4, quickly feeding the car back to the right-hand side to open up turn 5, and then it's full throttle through turn 6 and a medium-length run down to turn 7. This time, Craig brakes around the 50-meter board for the cambered hairpin at turn 7, and then accelerating up through the gears for one of the greatest corners ever created in the history of Formula 1. Forget about double apex corners. Turn 8 is triple or quadruple apex, and very important to get right because there's another medium length straight before turn 9. Craig makes sure not to run wide at the exit of turn 8, which is easy to do and will completely ruin your lap. Without a doubt, the most important corner of the circuit is turn 9, as this is the corner that carries you onto the longest straight on the track and also into the DRS zone, which will likely be among the most popular overtaking locations. The kink at turn 11 is flat out as it's always been, as we head now into the location where Vettel and Webber came to blows in 2010, reaching speeds over 320 kilometers per hour. Craig brakes around 130 meters all the way down to first gear for the Mickey Mouse final few corners of the lap. Sacrificing the exit at the penultimate corner, Craig gets a great run through the final corner and sets a 1:27.932 and grabs pole position for the Turkish Grand Prix.
On to the qualifying classification for the Turkish Grand Prix. Craig Baxter takes pole position once again ahead of Kieran Chadwick in the Force India. A really impressive lap time and pole position by over 0.7 of a second for Baxter. Bodden good enough for third though, so he'll be looking to gain a few positions and get a good start. 19 in fourth as well. Decent start for him, so he'll be also looking to gain positions like he usually does. Evan Rice with a surprising 5th place in qualifying, the best so far for him this season. Carpenter in 6th, although he's starting on the mediums, opting for a different strategy. Scott Davison and Vlad Dogar running side by side in the 4th row of the grid. It's going to be close between those as the race pace looks similar in practice. Matt Shepherd also going for the medium strategy, so the Williams trying to change things up, and we'll see how that plays out. Nick Brackey though, the last person starting in point scoring position. DeWalt Nell in 11th and Mike Panneman in 12th place with an invalidated lap time due to using super softs. Karel Basco though in 13th. Tom Martinez unable to qualify, so he'll be starting last. Hello and welcome to Istanbul for the Turkish Grand Prix. It's Baxter on the front row once again for the 3rd race in a row. Chadwick in 2nd, Bodden only good enough for 3rd in qualifying. He's going to have to jump a few positions at the start if he wants to get a chance at coming back in this championship. The cars are just filling into the grid positions. It's Basco at the back alongside Tom Martinez, starting on those medium compound tyres, be on the lookout for him. We're waiting for the 5 red lights to go out now as the cars are ready to get racing here in Istanbul. The lights are out and we're racing. Davison's got a good start in the middle, almost losing the car. Bodden as well down the inside, and Knighton on Chadwick as well. The two Ferraris are side by side into turn 1. Knighton's going to have a run on Chadwick going round the outside of turn 2. Is Bodden close enough to make a move though up the hill? Not quite. Knighton has gained the position as well, and Sam Carpenter trying to make a move on Chadwick on those medium compound tyres as well. So Carpenter off with a good start. Knighton up into P3 trying to attack the back of Bodden here, and it looks like Max Shepherd's went off track and he's definitely going to lose a few positions.
Yeah, very good start from all the drivers. Only one driver actually running wide, but crucially, Craig Baxter keeps his first position, but Fred Borden has managed to get himself into that top 2 position, and both Ferraris can now control the pace of this race. But I'm guessing that Fred Borden isn't going to be happy with second. He's going to try and push for that first position, as he's wanting to try and catch up in the drivers' standings. Also, Knighton getting up into 3rd position as he overtakes Kieran Chadwick coming off the start, but a fairly good start from all of the drivers so far.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Bodden's went a little bit deep into the high-speed chicane though, but Chadwick as well is on the back of Knighton, so both drivers are going to be getting slipstream from each other. Chadwick goes to the inside of turn 11 as he come up over this hill. Who's going to come out on top? As that's Davison on the back of Carpenter as well. Looks like Baxter's still leading this race, and Chadwick goes for a late braking manoeuvre, trying to hang it round the outside. It looks like he's managed to make that stick, so an impressive move from Chadwick there. Knighton though is going to try and come with the cutback coming into the final corner, and it looks like Bodden's all over the back of Baxter as well.
Yeah, we've got a really good little battle and scrap already between these two drivers at the minute going into turn 1. The Ferrari of Fred Borden looking for some sort of move, but Knighton is going to try and hang it around the outside. There's a little bit of contact there, but Knighton is going to have to hold his 4th position at the minute. He uses all of the slipstream and climbing up the hill now, side by side with Kieran Chadwick going into the next corner. Both Ferraris are going at it as well, but looks like Knighton is just about to stay ahead. I can't really see through the camera angle, but we'll be able to see they're actually going side by side once again, and they're trying to go around the outside. Kieran Chadwick's got the inside line, and he's finally managed to get that position stick. We've got a really good long back straight and 3 corners after that, which will promote a lot of battling, a lot of scrapping, and we're still going side by side at the minute, well deep into the 2nd sector before going into turn 8 now. And it looks like Knighton's going to have to back out and just consolidate for his 4th position at the minute, but there's plenty of laps left in this Grand Prix, but a good scrap already.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like the 2 drivers behind the Ferraris are losing ground on them though. They seem to be slipstreaming one another ahead, and I think Bodden may actually be close enough to make a move here as they come onto this long straight. No DRS of course, but the slipstream has been increased for this race, as well as the dirty air reduced, so we should see more battling, more overtaking, and that's definitely what we're going to see here. Bodden switches to the outside line. Is he going to make a move like Chadwick did earlier in the race? It looks like Knighton is as well on Chadwick, but it looks like Baxter's going to squeeze Bodden onto the white line right on the edge of the track, but Baxter's going to have the outside line, going to have the better traction coming out this final corner. You see right there, he's just able to take the position back, but will Bodden go for the inside into turn 1? It looks like Knighton is doing the exact same thing on Chadwick. Bodden's going to try and go for it. The Ferrari drivers come out cleanly and Baxter ahead. Knighton gets the move done on Chadwick as well, so these drivers are going head to head, and all of this is going to play into the hands of Martinez, who's starting on the medium compound tyres.
Yeah, lots of scrapping at the start of this race, and then Knighton actually gets back up into that top 3 position. It's basically a huge fight at the minute. You've got to think of Tom Martinez coming through the field, but it is a huge fight for the minute for first position, and then you've also got a battle behind for that final podium position, as it's been always Callum and Tom and Kieran always been in and around each other, but they are fighting in the World Drivers' Championship, and there's also a big fight on the way as well with Mercedes and Williams, and there is no Williams to be seen within the top 4 at the minute. You can see that is Sam Carpenter in 5th position at the minute, and there is Tom Martinez who is chasing behind. We see other back markers of this is Max Shepard coming through, and another McLaren Honda, but it looks like we're looking at DeWald now on a replay going up the inside of the Sauber driver, trying to hang it round the outside, once again scrapping in this final sector of this Istanbul circuit. But he actually loses the rear end, brakes, traction, awful throttle control. He just loses the rear end completely. A very strange thing to do there, but it's a crucial mistake. We've also got the Ferraris going at it up ahead, but I'm really impressed with the drivers so far at the start of this race.
Yeah, they're definitely keeping it clean. It looks like Davison's all over the back of Carpenter on those medium compound tyres. Martinez as well is absolutely flying at the moment. He needs to get past Davison as soon as possible though. You need to remember Davison is in sort of a medium compound sandwich at the moment. He's on the soft compound tyres. This is going to affect his race quite dramatically. He's not really racing with these guys as he runs deep into turn 1. Martinez streaks past, and it looks like an easy move done for him. Martinez and Carpenter as well as Matt Shepard are all starting on the medium tyres, so we're seeing a lot of split strategies, and it definitely looks like some drivers are going to be fast at the end of the race. It's going to be interesting to see if Martinez will be able to mount a battle, get himself on the podium. You've seen in Nebula, he was actually able to catch Bodden, but on the final lap of the race, losing it out of the final corner and having to complete the last lap with no front wing. So definitely going to learn from his mistakes. Going to try and get right up into the podium positions once again for this race. He's not won a race surprisingly this season, even though he's had some great pace to show in certain races. Just unfortunate in qualifying and unable to get it together in the races so far. But I don't know if that's me, but it looks like Baxter's beginning to pull away from Bodden at the front.
Yeah, he is doing a fine job at the minute. Started from pole and he's currently leading the way still at the minute. But just a word on Tom Martinez. He's no stranger to a contra strategy. He has many a time started at the back of the field after possible like disconnections in qualifying and also just messing up his qualifying lap. It looks like Tom Martinez is going to launch some sort of attack on Sam Carpenter going into the braking zone. He's pulling to the inside. Scott Davison providing us some great footage here as Tom Martinez goes up the inside. Scott just gets a bit too excited and locks up as well. But Tom Martinez, the Mercedes driver, has managed to move up into 5th position. But Sam Carpenter, I know him too well. He will try and get that position back no matter how hard he will try. He will try and get that position back. We've also still got this battle at the front as well between Kieran Chadwick and Callum Knighton. Callum Knighton still ahead at the minute. And like I said, Sam Carpenter dives up the inside into turn 1. Good job Tom saw him coming because Sam Carpenter was very much committed for that move. He was locking up. There was no more space to actually brake, so very good driving from the pair at the minute. But Tom Martinez once again coming back, trying to hang it round the outside. That means he's got the inside line for the next corner. Sam's going to have to give him some room. Whoa, only a little bit, and Tom Martinez uses all the curb on the inside line, and that's allowed Scott Davison to stay right on the back of this battle at the minute. Tom tries to go up the inside. It's a very late move. It looks like just Sam opened the door. A very awkward incident there, and like I said, Scott just goes up the inside and he's got that position, but a very sort of strange move. It looks like Sam just opened the door and Tom just slid up the inside.
Yeah, definitely as they almost make contact there in turn 8. That was a bit of an awkward one for the Toro Rosso driver and Sam Carpenter. It seemed like they both came on track and basically just attracted one another, had a little bit of contact. Shouldn't be any damage for either driver, but as you said, Carpenter just seemed to open that door into the into turn 7, and it just looked like Martinez wasn't even expecting it, but he left the door open and he went for the move and it paid off. So that's Davison and Carpenter. They're going at it again. These two are head to head all over the track at the moment, and it looks like Davison's actually managed to gain the position, squeezing him well towards the pit lane, but it looks like Davison might actually have the better traction coming out this corner. He's on the softer compound tyres, so they're going to begin to degrade in maybe 5 laps time, so we're going to see drivers, I think, do one stop today as Carpenter goes for a move once again, makes it stick. He seems to really like the moves into turn 1, and he's definitely pulling off some overtaking show for us.
Yeah, he's practiced that move on Tom and he pulled it off on Scott. But once again, Scott is he might not be the fastest driver in this league, but he's one of the most consistent, and he is trying to hold on to that top 6 position. Although he's lost it at the minute, he's just trying to go all over the back of Sam Carpenter, side by side, going into the second sector almost. And they're just coming out of the corner now. Scott getting a tiny bit of oversteer, well in the slipstream. Like Craig said earlier, the slipstream has been very much nerfed to allow a lot more on-track battling without the dirty air that was really affecting the cars. And this is also allowing Kieran Chadwick, who we just saw go through turn 8 full throttle, and he'd just be able to stick onto the back of the Mercedes driver of Knighton at the minute. Currently going into the next braking zone before going to the end of the second sector, going along the longest straight on this circuit at Istabul. It's a shame it's not actually on the actual current F1 calendar, but we're currently going down this back straight at the minute, and let's see what sort of gap that Kieran can pull back on Knighton going into the braking zone. And as you see, that they close up quite a lot. Kieran locks his inside front but makes the apex perfectly, and that just proves that the slipstream is very helpful around here at the minute. Currently going through the final 3 corners. I think Kieran is kind of just playing his cards correctly. They've had a little scrap at the start. I think both drivers realised that they were ruining the tyres, and they saw both Ferraris bolt ahead because them two were probably chatting to each other and saying, hey, these two guys behind are battling as hard as they can to try and get this 3rd position. Let's just bolt out ahead and then possibly start battling later on in the Grand Prix, but we've got to wait and see for that. But currently Callum is holding that 3rd position very well at the minute, but I'm sure that Kieran Chadwick is going to be trying to launch an attack maybe towards the end of this first stint.
If you were Chadwick at this point in time, I think you would be beginning to think, what's the best move in terms of strategy? You've got Martinez closing in on them behind, but talking about overtaking and moves, it's still Carpenter and Davison going head to head. This is going to be ruining both of these drivers' races. They're going to be having fun out there overtaking, but it's definitely not the ideal strategy that Carpenter wanted. He was sort of on the same strategy as Martinez, starting on the medium compound tyres, going to try and launch an attack at the Ferraris, but as seen in the last few races, he's just fell off of the top pace, and he just doesn't seem to be able to catch them, unable to get on the podium as well in the last few races. It just doesn't seem to be coming together for him at all. But Davison's definitely looking well here. He's not had a good run of form either. He's been sort of unlucky. He was caught up in Imola in the turn 3 crash, and that was definitely something we didn't want to see here again, and at least we didn't get to see that. It's Davison though on the back of Carpenter through turn 11. Is he able to gonna get close enough to go for a move into the braking zone? It certainly looks like it. He's got the slipstream effect. Is he going to be able to outbrake Carpenter down the inside? He goes for it anyway, locking up these two front tyres to make contact. That's a really aggressive move, and surely yet I think he's letting him back through. That's really nice driving from him, but lucky for Carpenter not to get any damage there.
Yeah, very lucky not to get any sort of damage. That was a huge whack. And I've also got, now I've just said a couple of seconds ago that maybe some sort of attack might be launched on Knighton from Chadwick, and it looks like he maybe made some sort of move. I don't know if maybe some sort of mistake occurred, but these two look seemingly a lot closer just visually. I don't know about the numbers, but just visually you can see that Kieran Chadwick is very much on the back of Knighton at the minute, going down toward this little straight, which will give a lot of slipstream, and quite a few moves we saw into this corner. It is a wide circuit, so a lot of side-by-side action can actually happen all around the track, not only just on the straights. So maybe battles through the entire first sector going into the second sector. Currently going through turn 8 at the minute, and Kieran takes an awful lot of grass on the inside, trying to turn in a bit too early, just maybe compromising for that dirty air. But Kieran is still very much on the back of him. The battling just kind of died down at the minute, but like Craig said earlier, it's all down to strategy. What is the best way to overtake someone? Is it to go at it, like what Sam and Scott are proving, and just ruining the tyres and just giving the spectators an absolutely amazing battle to watch, but it's ruining their races individually? Or do you do what these two guys are doing and properly playing out towards the end of their stints? I don't know when exactly they'll be coming in, because it's all about when the Ferraris come in, because the Ferraris play an awful impact on the strategies behind as well, because they set the entire tone for the entire race grid. But currently going through the final corners at the minute, and Callum Knighton just finishes the end of lap number 9, going on to lap number 10, and he's currently holding that position. But once again, these two drivers of Scott and Sam going at it, currently going around the final couple of corners, but it's a stellar job by these two. They really are putting on a great battle for us to watch, really.
Yeah, definitely. Davison's going to go for the inside once again, going to go for the move into turn 1, handing Carpenter his own medicine, and that's him up into the position. You've got to expect the soft compound tyres runners have got to be in the next few laps. I expect round about lap 11, lap 12 for those drivers. It's just surely going to be a one-stop tyre wear. It isn't too high around here, even though you've got some high-speed long corners like turn 8 especially. That's going to hurt the front right tyre, but there's not really any other corners that really affect the tyres, really put them under pressure, so definitely going to be a one-stop race today. Davison, though, you'd begin to think that he's going to pull away here coming up to round turn 7, and he's got the softer compound tyre as Carpenter gets loose on the exit. As I said, he's going to pull away now. He's on the better tyre, and he's just got to put lap times in if he wants to challenge Carpenter at the end of the race, because he's going to have to defend on the medium compound tyre against Carpenter on the softs at the end. But you just seen Chadwick there running off track. It seemed a bit out of place. It just looks like a lapse of concentration. I'd begin to think, if I was him, if he should make a move, maybe go for the undercut, because he's definitely seeming like he's the faster driver at the moment, just getting frustrated, stuck behind. And you see Martinez there, he's catching up on them, and it's the same with the two battling behind here. Davison, just look at Basco, he's getting right onto the back of Carpenter as he has a massive lock up on that front left tyre.
Yeah, a bit of a frustration kicking in for Kieran Chadwick, but we've just got to play the cards, because these soft tyres, so both Ferraris possibly be coming in quite soon. They've got to try and plan out who's going to be coming in first. You would think that it would be Baxter, who's always come in. If you remember back in Imola, he came in first. That's always been the motto at Ferrari. You've got to think, Tom, what is it? It's all out of sync now, because you've got to think, when does he slot in? But you've got to think of both, well, Knighton and Chadwick coming in soon as well. And Davis, I'm quite intrigued where Davison will fit in between maybe the two Williams and Tom Martinez, because he's been always there, but we don't really know how he fits in until the end of the race. He kind of maybe dies down, but there you can see the gap between the two drivers I was talking about. And Karel Basco, like you said, doing a stellar job there. He's been very quiet in this race, not many highlights about him. He's just been biding his time. He's just been keeping his nose clean, picking up any positions, like picking up any mistakes that any other drivers make at the back of the field. And he could possibly get maybe a top 7, top 6 if there's any sort of incident up ahead, any penalties given out at the end of the race. He will be always in and around there. Currently riding on board with Fred Borden, both Ferrari drivers locking up, going into the braking zone. It's quite a normal thing to see on their rFactor, always people locking up, going into different corners, but it does affect their tyre wear quite heavily. Over a stint length, you do see quite a lot of difference between the tyre wear. But just actually looking there, it looks like Knighton and But Chadwick have actually done quite well to keep the Ferraris. Are they going faster than the two Ferraris at the minute?
I think they could possibly be. I don't know. You've seen Nebula Racing really used his tyres at the beginning of the stints and Bodden was able to catch him at the end. But is Chadwick going to go for a move round the outside here? We're going to see something spectacular as Chadwick does. He hangs it round the outside. An incredible move. But they're still side by side into this right-hand turn. And Chadwick manages to get the move done. Knighton running off on the curb on the outside, getting himself bogged down. So now Chadwick's passed. You'd begin to think that he might actually pull away. Especially now if he was able to stay ahead into turn 8. Because that turn 8 is going to really affect the drivers. You're going to see probably Knighton try and take a different line. That seems like the best option through there because it just drags the car out wide, and you're going to see here, is he going to take a... No, he's actually going to take the same line. So it's quite interesting to see some drivers taking the line where they take the first apex really tight, some taking it wide entrance. It's really different to see all the different drivers taking all the different lines, and it's just coming out with a different, basically different overtakes. Hopefully we're going to see some more as Knighton's on the back of Chadwick though. Is he close enough to make a move here? I don't quite think he is, but I think he's going to prove me wrong, and he's going to go for a one round the outside. Is he going to beat him on the brakes? Both of them side by side still, and I think Knighton's going to do the smart thing, slip him behind and possibly go for a move like Carpenter did into turn 1, but Chadwick running a bit deep into the corner. It's going to allow Knighton with the cutback as they come across the line, go on to lap 12.
Yeah, he took the entire cutback move through the entire final sector, and he's now managed to launch an attack going into turn 1. He's going to be brave trying to go around the outside there, but Kieran is actually locked up, and he's really lucky there for Knighton not to run clean into the back of him, as he did lock up an awful amount, but actually Knighton's ran wide, got onto the grass. So what Kieran Chadwick did earlier, it seems to be quite an issue, just running wide, maybe frustration. Knighton actually maybe dominating these two at the start of this race, and he's now realised that maybe Chadwick was possibly saving his tyres right behind him, whilst maybe Knighton was pushing as hard as he can. Chadwick just keeping his tyres quite as good as possible, and he was actually able to keep with him. We're currently right on board with Mike Panaman, who is currently in 10th position, and he's currently right behind Max Shepherd, that is, who's currently on the medium tyres. I'm not sure what tyres Mike is on at the minute, but one very good drive from Mike at the minute. He's currently in 10th position, so he's got some points. I don't know what drivers are behind him at the minute, but he's doing very well at the minute, and maybe possibly launching some sort of attack on Max Shepherd at the minute. He's just maybe not the fastest, like I said with Scott. He's not the fastest. I think he recently got promoted to a first team.
This is actually his debut drive.
Oh yeah, it is it.
Mike Panaman and Vlad Doger both making their debut drives for McLaren.
Right, okay, so that explains it, and as we're currently discussing that, we've got Craig Baxter, who I did say would be the first Ferrari to actually come into the pit lane, and we've got to see now, are there any other cars that will be coming into the pit lane? And that is, I can't actually see up the road, but
Nathan's coming into the pits as well, you see him there, yep.
Yeah, so Chadwick carries on, and so surely that's forced, that's played into the hands of Knighton, because the undercut, surely Knighton will be really good on the undercut, and Chadwick will be nowhere.
Well, we've seen Chadwick pull off some weird strategies before. Like, you see him trying to go long in the first stint in Germany and actually his tyre exploding on him. So I wonder if is he going to try and go a bit longer, so he's on a soft, well, not the softer compound tyre, but the medium compound tyre, but it's going to be a couple of laps fresher. But surely Martinez is going to start catching him then, because he's going to come out in a sandwich between Martinez and Knighton, so the two Mercedes are actually coming closer together. As you see, Knighton's actually came out behind, I think that's Davison, so if he doesn't get past him fast, it might actually play into the hands of Chadwick if Chadwick comes into the pits at the end of this lap.
Yeah, he's currently going in through turn 7, and as long as he can keep his nose clean going through turn 8, he should. I'd probably say he'd be going some sort of move down the back straight. He gets an awful amount of understeer. Tyres are still warming up as it is a fresh set, and they're currently going through turn 8, and he's kept his nose clean. He hasn't ran wide. He hasn't put a huge amount of lock and ruined his tyres, and he's currently going into the braking zone. He's actually rammed into the back of him. A slight tap, but I do believe that Nice actually got a bit of damage from that. He got a bit of nose cone damage, and he's actually managed to get a nice undercut after all that, and he's managed to get past him almost before the kink in the straight, and they're going side by side now. It looks like Knighton goes back into the slipstream to get a bit more speed before pulling back out, and he's going to probably go up the inside into the braking zone. He does get that position stick, but very lucky there not to get a huge amount of damage. I did know that he did get a bit of nose cone damage, and we're currently looking at Craig Baxter going into turbo, and you can see Fred Borden coming out the pit lane, and you would have guessed that Baxter would probably pulled out maybe a second or two on Borden, as he did have the disadvantage of staying out for an extra lap on the older tyres, but Baxter and Borden just dominating the race at the minute. I'm quite intrigued to know, though, whether them two might start battling sometime soon. We've got Carl Basco and Max Shepard currently in the pit lane as well. And what tyres did Carl Basco start on?
He started on the soft compound tyres, so he's on the mediums now. That's actually Carpenter ahead.
It is,
so Shepard's actually behind Basco. So impressive drive from Basco right now. He's really running well, but he's on the medium compound tyre now. And as we're seeing before, Chadwick's actually stayed out. So Chadwick's currently leading the race, but the two Ferrari drivers are catching him at an alarming rate. So it's definitely not looking good. And Martinez as well, he's been in the pits and he's going to make a move round the outside of turn 8. This is something you don't normally see. Martinez holding it round the outside. That's an incredible overtake, one of the best we've seen so far this season. Martinez on the soft compound tyre does have the better tyre, but still managing to hold it round the outside there. That was really impressive. And now just look at how close he is to his teammate, and you've got to think he's definitely going to be able to catch him and overtake him on the softer compound tyre.
Yeah, most certainly. We've also got the two Williams as well also on track. So we've got the two Williams, the two Ferraris and the two Mercedes all really close on track. And they're currently looking at Max Shepard at the minute. But surely Knighton is probably going to pull over for Martinez because he knows he's quicker. And they're on different strategies as well. So he's just going to allow Tom Martinez to just play out his strategy and possibly challenge the top 3. It's not unknown for Tom Martinez to come through the entire field. We saw it in Imola. He almost overtook Borden at the end, but he did lose his front wing. And we've currently got a car coming out the pit lane, and is that Chadwick? Yes, it is. He's actually come out behind Tom Martinez, and that is not what he needs. He's going to the slipstream now. It looks like he's trying to make some sort of move going into the next corner. No, he does not, and Tom Martinez runs wide, as does Chadwick. So it's currently Callum Knighton in 3rd position, Tom Martinez in 4th, with Kieran Chadwick in 5th. Tom Martinez not making his stop at the minute, but it's very, very unlucky because he's now got to go up against the pair of the two Mercedes, and surely Knighton's got to let Tom Martinez through sometime soon and possibly just allow the battle to play out between them two whilst Tom Martinez goes off into the distance and possibly go and try and challenge the two Ferraris. But currently going through turn 8 at the minute, it looks like Knighton is very much holding up Martinez. They're trying to pull out a little gap to possibly let each other through to try and just create some sort of gap. Going into the next braking zone now, they're very close, and surely if you're Kieran Chadwick, you've got to stay as close as possible because I think he deep down knows that it's going to be some sort of position switch here. And Tom Martinez is making the position switch now, and it's going up the inside. Looks like Knighton hasn't really missed out on much, as surely he can get it back into the slipstream. Yes, he does. But looks like Chadwick is going to get a huge slipstream with 2 cars in front of him. He's trying to go up the inside, but Tom Martinez brakes as late as possible. He locks up the inside front, and surely that's now going to compromise his teammate who was compromising him before, and now he's got the awkward line, a bit of a line that really doesn't want to take. He has to take the long way round, and now going down towards turn 1, we've got Chadwick going up the inside. I'm running out of breath, so I'm going to give it over to Craig because this is an incredible battle.
Well, Chadwick sticks it down the inside into turn 1. Knighton losing that possession, so pitting a couple of laps earlier than Chadwick has not actually benefited him. If anything, he's in the worst position of all 3 of these drivers. Martinez is going to streak away, you'd like to think so, and he's definitely going to aim to catch Borden. He's put in a purple first sector already, so it looks like he's on his way to do that. Don't know if he's going to have enough laps or the tyre life to do so, but Chadwick, talking about tyre life, he's going to have 2 laps more tyre life in those medium compound tyres, and as I know personally, it's definitely better to have some fresh mediums in comparison to softs, because mediums are definitely not the tyre you like to be on in this track. They really don't react well to the high speed turn 8 as you're seeing here. Chadwick surprisingly locking up into that corner, or just tyre smoke from the speed he's taken, and it definitely does look like he's pulling away from Knighton, so the strategy that he's actually done this race is actually paying off for him, so definitely going well for him right now. The 2 Ferraris are still out in front. Baxter's beginning to pull away from Borden as he runs off onto the grass once again. That's the second time we've seen him do that this race. I wonder, is that just a lapse of concentration?
I think so. It's a really strange thing because it can't be frustration because surely he's happy now because he's ahead of Knighton at the minute. But that's not really going to help him because he saw the bit of smoke going into turn 8. So that's really proving that he's pushing as hard as he can to try and pull away from Knighton. But he's doing the exact thing that he just needs to do. He needs to stay on the back and stay within this slipstream kind of area. And going into turn 1, there's no move really available. But going into turn 1, both drivers taking a really good line through that corner. So no mistakes through there. But going through turn 2, and now we're looking at the two Ferraris at the minute. There's quite a certain gap between the two drivers, and we're surely going to see the cars filing down this hill now. We see Tom Martinez, there's a fair gap between him and the Ferraris, but he has pulled away from these two drivers at the minute of Chadwick and Knighton, as they're most certainly probably going to go at it again within this second sector. We're currently looking at one of the Ferrari drivers. I'm not too sure which one it is, and I think it might be Baxter. Yes, it is, and there is a fair gap between the two Ferraris, so you kind of think that Baxter, like he proved as he put it on pole, is really showing that he has got the pace once again over his teammate.
Well, he did have a front wing angle adjustment in the pit lane, so it's interesting to see. It's one of the first times I've actually seen it so far this season, so I wonder if maybe just the first stint his front wing was just a bit off, and that's how he was unable to pull away from Bodden. But just look now, he's definitely lapping much faster. On the last lap he was 4/10 faster, so in this lap he's already 5/10 up in his teammate, so Bodden's really beginning to drop away, and so is Knighton on the back of Chadwick here. So the two drivers that are really making those medium compound tyres work seem to be Chadwick and Baxter, and it looks like Bodden and Knighton are beginning to struggle on them.
Yeah, I don't think Knighton or Bodden have ever been really known for their outstanding pace on a certain tyre. They've always just had fairly consistent pace on both tyres, but you can see the gap there, and it's definitely more than a second between these two drivers at the minute, and you kind of got to feel that if there's not any sort of mistakes or crashes or anything up ahead, Knighton's going to have to settle for that fifth position, just pull out a gap behind, and that's the same with this driver. He looks like he's got the pace over everyone, and he's just going to be pulling ahead unless Tom Martinez gets somewhat nearer to Baxter and the Ferrari of Bodden behind. You kind of feel that we're over half distance in this Grand Prix, and you kind of got to think that Baxter's probably already got his towel on that winning trophy at the minute, but we've got a long way still left in this Grand Prix. The tyres can do anything. Strategy is still a big part, although it's only a one stop. You've got to time. You can't just ruin your tyres. You can't just push on one of the stints. You have got to save the tyres as much as possible. So if there is some sort of threat, then you can possibly push. But at the minute, it looks like there's going to be no battle at the front, which is kind of disappointing. But I'm very intrigued to see if Tom Martinez is able to catch the Ferrari of Fred Bodden.
Yeah, he definitely looks to be on course to do so. By the current lap times, if Martinez can keep it up, which will definitely be a stretch for him on those soft compound tyres, but he's gonna catch him roughly maybe round about lap 26 with his current pace. So we might actually see a battle between those two, and if he can get past Bodden quickly, which I highly doubt Bodden's going to let him past very easily. I don't really think Bodden... We've not really seen Martinez and Bodden go at it, so it'll be really good if we get to see that. But Chadwick is pulling away from Knighton as well, and as you say, Knighton settling for 5th place, but you need to remember you've got Carpenter right there, as you see. He's on the soft compound tyres, and he's definitely going quick. Not as quick as Martinez, but he was only 4/10 slower than Martinez on that last lap, and Martinez is just absolutely flying right now.
Yeah, there's some incredible pace, and actually looking at Carabasco, who is just holding that position in 6th place. You can't really see Scott Davison anywhere, so I don't know where he went. I think he just dropped off. Pace maybe not as good. He was showing some good pace at the start of the Grand Prix, but you see the gap, look at that, between Chadwick and Knighton. It is really growing now, and Kieran Chadwick is just showing some incredible pace on them tyres compared to his rival at the minute in the championship and in this Grand Prix. And just a note on Knighton, it's kind of... it's a bit unfortunate because you kind of hope that there's going to be some sort of battle between these two drivers, but if Sam Carpenter can catch up to Knighton, I don't think he's going to let him by too easily. They are in a battle in the championship in the constructors, so there is going to be quite a big battle there, but at the front as well with Bodden and Tom Martinez, no, they haven't ever really had a battle. Tom Martinez's teammate has had a battle. If you remember back in Australia when they had that fairly amazing battle, that was one of the better battles in this season so far. But it's all kind of a bit of a waiting game at the minute. But Craig Baxter, he's still leading the way at the minute.
Yeah, he is, and he still seems to be pulling the gap on Bodden in 2nd place. He's dropping off quite a lot, actually. His pace isn't really as good here as you would expect from him. In Imola, he was able to keep the gap, and it was actually able to close the gap at the... on the soft tyres at the start or the end of the first stint in Imola, but it was the same in Imola on the medium compound tyres. It seems like Bodden isn't as strong as Baxter. He did make that adjustment to the front wing angle, but it's still quite odd to see because Bodden doesn't seem to like those medium compound tyres. Imola, he sort of lost the pace, but the only really place where we've seen him do really well on those medium tyres was Germany, and that's where his race pace was incredible in Germany. So it's really difficult to judge because he's just performing so differently at different tracks. I don't know if it's just his driving style or what, but Martinez is still flying right now, currently setting a green first sector, so he's personal best in the first sector. Carpenter actually has the best first sector, so he's also catching Knighton. So I think we've got two battles brewing up here. I think that's actually Shepherd on the back of Davison. So Davison on the medium compound tyre as well isn't as impressive as he was on the softs.
Yeah, it is just a bit of a waiting game at the minute. We're waiting. We can see a few battles emerging, possibly maybe towards the end of the race. That's kind of the downside to a one-stop, is the fact that you kind of got to wait until the end of the stint before some sort of firework might actually pop. And but we have got, this is like the first battle that might start brewing at the minute between Davison and Shepherd. And Shepherd's just currently going through that next corner, just currently staying on the back of him quite well. But currently going down this back straight. Scott's got a fairly decent run, but not as good as the Williams driver, going along the kink and now going along the back straight. Looks like the Williams driver of Shepherd goes to the inside, and he's got the inside line, and he's probably going to outbrake him fairly easily. He locks his inside front, and Scott tries to hang it round the outside, but it's a really awkward corner to try and hang on. You're better off with the undercut, and that just proves that Shepherd moves up into 8th position. Kind of disappointing for Scott Davison. He has been one of the most consistent, but his pace, the raw pace, may be lacking there. He was battling for top 6, if you remember, and now in dropping all the way down to 9th position, I believe. It's kind of a bit difficult, kind of hard to, you kind of got a feel for him. But Max Shepherd, kind of not really much of a comeback race. He's just there. It's a very strange race for Max Shepherd at the minute, and it is a shame that some drivers, drivers' pace varies an awful lot, and it's also like a word on driving styles and how much practice to put in. Like, driving styles means an awful amount. Like, talking back to Baxter and Borden, you kind of can't help but feel that this track really doesn't. Would you say that it doesn't really suit Borden?
Well, and we seen in Imola the way he was applying the throttle very, very early on the exit of corners in Germany as well. We had the discussion. It just seems Baxter's just. It's the same in Austria. It's high speed corner tracks. He just outperforms his teammate, and I think maybe Borden is better at the more slow corners, like when it relies more on the actual power of the throttle and the brakes. But you would think that Borden would be fast at some high-speed tracks, since he's so good on, well, known to be as good on the brakes as he is. So it's interesting to see, as you said, and it definitely is playing a factor. But one person that is still flying right now is Tom Martinez, and he's still on course to catch Borden. I don't quite think I don't know if he'll be able to catch Baxter, especially if he battles with Borden. But here's someone we haven't really spoke about, Vlad Dogar, making his debut race. He's currently in P11, so not a massively strong race for him, but he'll be happy. He's just keeping it clean, keeping the car on the track, keeping it pointed straight. And McLaren, who haven't really had a bunch of consistent drivers this season, are finally getting somewhere at least. And Martinez is going to actually be lapping him very, very.
Yeah, it's good to see that McLaren have managed to pick two drivers that have actually got quite consistent. It looks like he's getting out of the way extremely well, which is really good to see that the back markers respecting the front runners. As there's battles all up and down the field, but Vlad Dogar just very much keeping his nose clean, just letting the back markers go by, and then possibly catching the drivers in front. He's also got his teammate that he can battle with as well, who is, I don't know how far up ahead, but he is. At least he's got someone to battle with, and being as it is his debut race, he's still getting used to the mod, he's still getting used to his surroundings, and time will tell whether or not he's got any raw pace to properly challenge. Maybe it's for a top 10, top 5. We'll have to see. We're currently looking at one of the Williams drivers, but like on the top, like what Craig says, it's all about Tom Martinez at the minute. Is he able to actually catch the top 2? But then the question is he able to launch some sort of attack? Because that's the thing around this track. It is, if you're quite consistent, it is quite hard to possibly get by. But the slipstream is so effective around here, and the two cars are very much set up to go as fast as they can down the straight, as much as they can, without losing too much performance in the corners. Sam Carpenter currently riding on board with at the minute. I don't know whether we'll be able to catch some sort of glimpse of the Mercedes drive of Callum Knighton up ahead. And yes, we can. We can see him up ahead going into the next corner. So he is very much catching, but not as much as Tom Martinez. So unless Knighton makes some sort of critical mistake that really does lose him a huge amount of time, this battle is still on the back burner. We'll see what happens with this one, but I still on Tom Martinez at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. He's just went quickest of all in the middle, well, the first sector again, and setting a really good middle sector. So he's definitely on track to catch Bodden. I think it'll be in the next few laps, actually, because Bodden is dropping off even more to Baxter in front. So it seems like he just can't make those tyres work. We see the visual gap there. Just look at the gap he's pulled out in the first stint. He got the undercut, which gained him like a second, but it's just a huge gap to Bodden. I don't know if he's beginning to struggle on those medium compound tyres. Maybe had a big lockup, maybe just overhit them, or maybe just can't get temperature in them. It's really weird, because you'd like to see him launch an attack on Baxter. The championship is already quite a big gap, actually, to Baxter in front. The Ferraris already have the constructors wrapped up, but Williams currently in second place in that, and Mercedes look like they're going to be gaining this race unless Carpenter can really pull something off, get a few positions, or there's an incident up front. But it definitely looks like Mercedes are getting closer to Williams in the constructors. At least we're going to see some sort of battle there.
Well, every race that goes on, you got to feel for Bodden. It's every race just slips through his fingers. The past couple of races at Imola, that just went from him. Back in Germany as well, like he performed quite well. But it's all about every race that goes on. We've got Sparkling up next, which might suit his driving style. There's a lot of high-speed corners once again, so Baxter might be really good there. We might see some sort of surprise with maybe one of the lower down teams. Maybe Kieran Chadwick, who maybe might put in a lot more practice and properly show his pace like what he did in Silverstone. But this gap is very much closing. Bodden is very much struggling at the minute. Tom Martinez is pushing as hard as he can. And coming to the end of lap number 24, you can see the top three are in the same sector, but I'm not sure how far behind Kieran Chadwick is, as Tom Martinez runs off the track, makes some mistakes, so maybe getting a bit too excited as he's catching the Ferrari driver at the minute. But starting lap number 25, he's got 6 laps to go. Technically, that's how it works with the laps. He's got 6 laps to go, and we'll see what actually happens. We've got right on board with Carl Basco. This is a replay at the minute, currently going into the braking zone, going around this right-hander, the same corner that Tom made the mistake, and he's actually very strange lagging out there, and he's now into the wall. So I think it was a bit of a weird incident there. I think he did crash his car, just losing the rear end toe. Maybe the car snapped the opposite way that Tom's did. Tom snapped to the outside of the track, which is fairly lucky, and Carl Basco actually slamming into the wall. So a fairly unlucky drive there. I thought he was one of his best drives, and maybe he don't race much, but he did do very well there. So it's kind of sad to see.
Actually, Carol Basco, unfortunately, it was actually a disconnect he had, which is why he was looked like he was gliding along the track. So I don't think he had an incident, and maybe had some contact with the wall, but he disconnected. So that's massively unfortunate for him. He was running extremely well in his second race, running in P7, so comfortable race, and he had a lonely race, but it was going to score him some decent points and Sauber, which they really badly needed after struggling to score any points. Actually, it's the same with Red Bull. Nick Bracchi, he started from the pit lane after causing the incident in Imola last race, but he was already DNF from the race. So we've got a few people disconnecting and DNFing from this race. Not what we like to see, but it happens in online racing. And talking of actual racing, it's Carpenter who's catching Knighton as well. So it definitely looks like Bodden and Knighton, their tyres, they just can't get them to work around here, and it definitely looks like Carpenter is closing. And I don't know, do you think he's going to be able to catch and make a move?
Well, time will tell, because we've been waiting, both me and you, Craig. We've been waiting all race for some sort of battle. We do hope there is. Knighton locks up into turn 1 and runs wide, so showing that it's just something isn't clicking. It might not be the car, it might just be him, because Tom Martinez is proving that Mercedes, and the same with Craig Baxter. He's proving that Ferrari. Both cars are performing extremely well. I think it's when you've just got all the setup nailed, and if you're liking the track and you're liking the tyres and you've saved them and everything's gelling, I think that's when you'll probably see some really good lap times. And we've seen the 2 gaps at the minute close massively, and Bodden and Knighton struggling so badly at the minute. And surely there's going to be some sort of battle. We've got still 5 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and Tom is very much in the slipstream. I don't think there's going to be any sort of move made towards the end of this lap, but maybe towards the end of lap 27, 28, that's when we're probably going to make some sort of move from Tom. But time will tell, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there's going to be no mistakes. Hopefully we can see some really good battles from the two pair of drivers. Yeah,
definitely. That's what we all want to see, really. We'll see the gap from... just look at the gap to the 3rd and 4th place. It's huge. So, or should I say, sorry, 4th and 5th place. So it's a massive gap that those three drivers, they seem to, even in Imola as well, they seem to be in a league of their own in comparison to some other drivers, albeit some drivers were missing from there. But just look at how much Carpenter's been able to gain on this lap, as well as Martinez. He's on the outside of Bodden here. Will he be able to hang around the outside like Chadwick did? He's going for it, especially he has the inside line to the next corner. Bodden backs out of it, but definitely won't be giving up here. He's going to try and come for a move in the next corner, and Martinez, who has just made the move stick, is now going to hope that he's going to go and make a move on Baxter's going to try and catch him, but Bodden's definitely not giving up. He's going to try and hang around the outside. Is he going to be able to on those old medium tyres? It doesn't look like it, but he has the better launch coming up towards turn 8, and he's actually managed to make it side by side as the both drivers go side by side. Martinez has the worst line, so Bodden's going to squeeze him out on the outside curb, and both of the drivers, they almost make contact. Martinez almost pushing him here, and I think he's just got to be patient, just wait for the move on this back straight, because this is just holding him up. It's just ruining his race right now, and he's going to end up getting into an incident if he's not careful.
Well, to say that these two drivers haven't really been known for their on-track battling, we never really saw them in the past couple of highlights. They are putting on a really good show at the minute, almost coming into contact going down this back straight. The pair of them running side by side, extremely close. Tom Martinez locks up, he's trying to get around the outside, which means he's got the inside line for the next corner. Then he's going to shove, and there's a little bit of contact there. Looks like there was a little bit of contact as Bodden did run wide, extremely wide, almost onto the grass. So maybe possibly go to the stewards there. But as we said earlier on in the Grand Prix, everything's happening now. We've got Carpenter and Knighton going side by side. Knighton gets a bit more slipstream. He's going to brake, trying to go around the outside. Both drivers lock up, but Knighton is holding around the outside. That means he's got the inside line, and actually they're going to actually his contact. And wow, okay, so that's Knighton round, and that is not what we wanted to see. We see a really good battle between Bodden and Martinez at the end of the race, and there's just a bit of a two cars try and go for one apex, it looked like. And what was your thoughts on that? Because it looked kind of unlucky for Knighton.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate there. That's the two Mercedes drivers. We're going to get a replay of it, caught up in an incident at the same corner on the same lap. So definitely not the best for Mercedes. You see it, so Knighton runs deep into the high-speed chicanes of turns 9 and 10, but we're going to see what happens here. So he goes for the inside. They're going to be running side by side as they go into the braking zone. Remember, Carpenter is on those fresher tyres. He's on the softer compound tyre, so he's going to be the quicker driver. Knighton not giving it up though. Tries to hang it down the inside, and it just looks like Carpenter closes the door on Knighton there. Just doesn't allow him enough room in the inside, but it's the stewards that are going to be deciding that one, and we're going to see probably, it's going to be investigated after the race. So Martinez as well is going to be, you're going to see what's going to happen with him. It's definitely going to be investigation with that one as well. Bodden won't be happy with that incident. He sort of pushed wide and lost the position that he's been trying so hard to keep.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame to see that maybe a race result might be decided on a penalty, but if you're in Knighton position, you surely got to think that he kind of deserves that position back, as he was alongside. He did have at least half a car's width and at least half a car alongside, so it's kind of a bit unlucky. It's not a huge blame. It's not like Sam completely cut him off, but it is a fairly wide track. You've got to think, look at how wide this track is. You could probably fit maybe 4 or 5 cars abreast, and that's around the entire track, so you can't help but feel that Sam possibly could have left a bit of room there, but still some incredible racing, and it's not short. These drivers are exceptionally good at going wheel to wheel. We most likely see most of the battles within the top 6, and we see 19 currently in top 6 at the minute, but the top 6 drivers are currently, and we see a lot of battles with these drivers. There's bound to be some sort of contact. It does happen. It's racing, but we'll live to fight another day, and hopefully we'll be able to see. Hopefully the race result won't be decided on a penalty, but I'm pretty sure that there might be maybe some sort of discussion at the end of this race.
Yeah, definitely. It's unfortunate. You actually seen Baxter and Bodden running side by side in that same corner. You've seen Carpenter as well with Davison earlier in the race, but you also seen Davison making contact in the corner before. So drivers, this is a really high-speed track. You need to remember they've been racing for almost 30 laps, and as Baxter goes on to the final lap of the race, it doesn't look like Martinez is close enough to make a move, and Bodden just going to be so furious in that cockpit of the car right now. Definitely going to be hoping to gain that position back at the end after what happened. It's going to play a role though in the championship. Baxter's going to extend his lead if he stays in that first position, which is looking likely. Chadwick having a quiet second part of the race. It's been pretty impressive from him. He's managed to pull away from Knighton really, really well. It's quite extraordinary, actually, the gap he's managed to.
Yeah, I don't think Knighton did anything for his tyres after having that half spin as well. But currently the focus is all on Baxter at the minute. I don't think there was any much of a doubt that he would have made this race would have slipped through his fingers. He's had an incredible race. He's dominated the race. He's done the pace. He got first choice in the pit stop because he did get that pole position. Pole position in qualifying means so much, just down to the race result. But hat off to Baxter, he did exactly what he needed to do, and it's currently coming to the end, going into the third sector, coming to the end of lap number 30, and well, he's just proving to all the other drivers that they need to do a bit more practice if they want to challenge this man.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to make it 3 in a row, 3 pole positions in a row, and he's going to make it 3 race wins in a row. Still a record that's not to be broken yet this season. Baxter comes around the final corner for 30 laps of Istanbul. He's winning in Turkey. Good race win for Baxter. He's going to extend his lead in the championship. Martinez only good enough for second place here. Bodden in third position is going to be the biggest loser here as well. It's unfortunate for him, but it's how the cookie crumbles really for that Ferrari driver there. He's not going to be happy. But Chadwick, the really impressive race from him. 4th position after starting second. Not a good start. It really needs to work on his starts, I would say, for the next race. Carpenter finishing in P5. I don't think he'll be happy with that after starting on the medium compound tyres. Knighton in 6th place. Will be going to the shirts after this race for sure. On to the race classification for the Turkish Grand Prix. Craig Baxter takes victory ahead of Tommy Martinez in 2nd place. Fred Bodden getting overtaken in the latter stages of the race is only good enough for 3rd position, so Baxter extends his lead in the championship. Kieran Chadwick with 4th position. He'll be happy with that after a race that didn't go quite as planned after starting 2nd. Knighton good enough for 5th place as Carpenter got a penalty for the incident between those two drivers. Max Shepard in 7th, Davison in 8th, Mike Panneman in 9th, and Vlad Doger the last person to pick up points. Karel Basco unfortunately disconnecting and the other drivers DNFing, so it's been a good race in Turkey. On to the driver standings then. Baxter is extended his lead from Bodden in 2nd place. It's looking inevitable now that he's going to wrap up the championship soon if Bodden or Carpenter can't find something that will make them gain in qualifying. It seems that's where Baxter's able to go ahead of these drivers. Kieran Chadwick up into 4th place then, Knighton closing in on him, and Tom Martinez as well getting close to Knighton, so that part of the championship is really getting close. Shepard 7th, Bernatsky 8th, Dewaldnell 9th, and Juan Manuel Gomez in 10th. Ferrari then are leading the constructors as seen before. They've already wrapped it up and it's all over for any other team to win, so it's been sort of a landslide this season for them. Williams are 2nd and Mercedes are closing, so that's going to be an interesting battle towards the end of the race, and Force India in that sort of land of their own in 4th place. McLaren Honda though in 5th, nowhere near. Join us next time for the Belgian Grand Prix. We're going to be going around Spa-Francorchamps for round 10 of the Nebula rFactor Championship. I would like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.